Hey guys, welcome back to Mentorship CEO. And today what you guys are looking at is my Omega Constellation, and I'm gonna be talking a little bit in detail, basically doing a side-by-side compare and contrast of this watch with my Rolex Datejust 16233. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's go. So guys, you just saw the watch on my wrist and it looked beautiful. The size is perfect for my wrist. Now I'm going to go into the details really on the Omega Constellation, but I think it'll be really interesting to have my Datejust side by side so you guys could really understand the size and appreciate the beauty of the Constellation. Now, of course, you guys know my Rolex Datejust 16233, which is a 36mm case. Now, when you hear the size of a watch, when they say the 36 or 40mm, they're really just measuring the side from the left to the right, not including this crown. So just this surface to this side of the watch, and that's 36 on the Datejust. And on the Constellation is 34. So the Constellation is considered a smaller watch to the Rolex Datejust, but as you guys can see, clearly it's hard to really tell the difference because, like I mentioned, the measurement of these watches are from the left to the right, not including the crown. So on my wrist, the watch, both of them look great because, like I mentioned in previous videos, case dimension is important. So as you guys can see, these lugs are very long, and therefore from the vertical lug to lug, it's almost pretty much the same as the Datejust. So on wrist, it looks great. It doesn't look small. It doesn't look like it doesn't have presence on my wrist because of specific dimensions on parts of the case. Now, let's go into more detail. So like I said, the Omega Constellation is a 34mm case. The caliber movement on the inside is a 505, which has 24 jewels. On the Datejust, the caliber is a 3135 and it has 31 jewels. So the Datejust has more jewels. Now, let me give you just a basic understanding of what jewels are. Jewels are pretty much like gemstones within the movement. And to me, the more jewels that a watch has means the more durable or more longer lasting it will be, because jewels are parts on the watch that helps reduce friction. And you could think of like a car where friction entails wear and tear. So basically, let's say your car has oil, making sure the lubrication is up to, you know, spec, therefore making the engine last longer. So similar to this, the watch movement, having more jewels means the longer the watch movements and the parts will last in the watch. Now let's move into the year of the watch. This watch is clearly vintage, fully vintage, because the year is a 1965, guys. 1965 Omega Constellation, and my Datejust is a 2000. So I would consider my Rolex Datejust a neo vintage or getting there, but the Omega is considered fully a vintage watch, and by the appearance you can tell. Now the material of these watches, the Rolex Datejust is a two-tone 18 karat gold and steel. As you can see, the bezel is 18 karat gold throughout the bracelet and the crown on the right and also on the dial. On the Omega, It's full 14 karat gold, solid 14 karat gold. In both of these watches, they come in various variations. On both watches, you could get 18 karat solid gold, 14 karat solid gold. You could get two-tone, and you could get gold filled, gold cap, just you name it, all variations you can get. Now, the Omega Constellation was Omega's answer to Rolex's Datejust. So they're both considered dress watches, and in my eyes can be dressed down and of course dressed up. More so the Datejust, especially in this spec of the two-tone. But as you guys can see how elegant the Omega Constellation is, it looks really fully like a dress watch. And yes, it depends on the strap that you have on it. It can make it look way more dressier. Like my strap right now, it's a lizard strap, which I chose like a dark brown, so therefore it looks almost black sometimes, and then when certain light hits it, it looks brown. Now we're gonna move on to the crystal of the watch. On the Omega Constellation, it has an acrylic crystal, or you could call it plexiglass. And on the Rolex Datejust, it's a sapphire crystal. Now, everyone has different ideas on what crystal they prefer and what they like. Now, with the Omega, there's different models, of course. Some of you guys may be more familiar with the Speedmaster. There's the Seamaster, and this is the Constellation. Even the Speedmaster have the vintage model in it, where they have the acrylic crystal. And on the Datejust, more vintage models have acrylic, but since this one is a little bit more modern, it has the sapphire. So when it comes to acrylic is a softer material, so it's easier to scratch, but if it falls, it wouldn't shatter. On the Datejust with the sapphire, it's harder to scratch, but if it falls, it's a higher likelihood that it will shatter or crack. Now let's move into the dial. Now we're all familiar with my Rolex Datejust with the tapestry dial and the stick hand. But let's move over to the Omega Constellation, where it has the crosshair dial. Because of the, I guess you can see from the 12 to the 6, there's a line going down, and from the 3 to the 9, there's a line going across. Therefore they call it the crosshair. And as you guys can see even closer, there's patina on the dial. In the watch world, we call I guess the decay and the wear and tear of the watch patina, and we appreciate patina because it gives the watch character. It gives it a little bit more charm than just a brand new watch that just has no character, where you're going to be the person to add it to the watch, because due to, let maybe say, sunlight or moisture over the years, it's going to change over time. Yes, more modern watches are made out of material that maybe it might take a little bit longer, but everything ages, guys, and eventually will change colors and fade. Also, I don't know if you guys can tell, even on the gold, there's a bit of change based, I guess, due to oxidation on the gold over time. So this is 14 karat solid gold, so over time, along the sides of it, it has a different coloration. And if we go in deeper on the dial, at the 12, 6, 3, and 9, we have Arabic hour markers, and for the other markers, where let's say 1, 2, 4, 5, and the rest are arrowhead markers, which I think is very unique and definitely adds character to the watch. Now, when we look at the serial number on these watches, both watches. They're placed differently. On the Rolex Datejust, the serial number would be between the lugs at the 6 o'clock. And on the Omega, you'll have to open up the case back to see all the numbers and the references and everything of that nature. Now, since we mentioned case back, let's take a look at the case backs. So guys, here's the case back. I'm deciding just to show the Omega case back because we all know how a Rolex case back looks. It's just a plain stainless steel or solid gold case back, unless you engrave something on it. But let's look at this Omega Constellation case back, where we have the observatory logo, which the logo is used to homage Rolex's award-winning movement, based on the test that they were done, what they did in 1933 and I think 1936. So it was an award-winning movement that Omega had, and therefore, of course, with the observatory and the stars, it goes along with the name of, the constellation, the watch, the Omega Constellation. And let's just take it back to the front also, where we have on the dial, we have the star right below the constellation, the word constellation down there above the 6 o'clock, which also goes along with the constellation of the stars. Now, let's keep going. If we look at the lugs, from lug to lug, it's an 18 millimeter lug to lug. So the strap, if you're looking for a strap for the watch, you'll just say you're looking for an 18 millimeter strap. And on the Rolex Datejust, it's a 20 mil. Now, the function on this watch is a time only. There's no date on by the 3 o'clock or anywhere else on the watch, just the time. On a Datejust, of course, you have time and date. So whenever you hear function on a watch, it could be the date, it could be the day, the time, it could be the GMT, it could be a chronograph, it could be a minute repeater. So guys, there's various functions on different watches. So there's a lot to learn, a lot to get into when it comes to watches. Guys, I'm gonna leave it here. You guys will see a lot more of this watch on the channel. I just wanted to do a quick little introduction of the watch, let you guys know that you'll be seeing it a little bit more often. And if you guys have any questions, of course, comment down below, and I'll make another video and many more where you guys will be able to see it on me, and just on my day-to-day, just like with the Rolex Datejust. So guys, remember to subscribe, give this video a like, share it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.